Good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping that if my speech doesn't keep you awake this afternoon, my jacket will. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the jacket later on. I want to thank my daughter over there, who is my clicker today. She's my official clicker, and she knows my speech. She's heard it roughly about 80 times, so I'm sure she's going to be very helpful. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, just give you some perspectives from a lifelong educator and give you some thoughts about lifelong learning from someone who has spent a lot of time teaching. I actually am very well schooled. At last count, I've actually attended 9 different schools, and I've been on staff of 9 different schools somewhere in my career. But I've spent 32 years surrounding myself with children and teachers. And I want to tell you I'm a little bit in awe of children. I want you to think about what we do with children to educate them. They come to us when they're 5. They walk into a place where they have no choice of being there, who they're going to talk to, or what they're going to do. They walk into a room and they're immediately expected to be very excited about this strange new game where you hook symbols and sounds and put them together and make sense of it all. And you have to continue to do that with perfect self-control and something called good citizenship. So think about that. Think about children who aren't very good at that. Consider whether you as adults would go daily to a place where you're not very good at something, perform it all day long in front of someone who is paid to watch you do it. Do you think you'd do that? And so wouldn't it be okay for children, every child once a day, to run from the room screaming out of frustration? I think that'd be okay. I think that there are teachers who think that would be okay for them too. But our schools do not have that happening. Our schools are fairly well-controlled places. I'll tell you the secret, just between you and me. Candy. And then we send them home. As you learn today, as you listen today, I want you to hear perhaps some of those perspectives from a child's point of view. Are there risks taken? Are there incremental small steps? Is there persistence and perseverance? Let me start from the beginning. I grew up in Espanola, New Mexico. It was at the time a sleepy little city just north of Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is the state capital and is itself an arts and cultural center. I grew up speaking only Spanish until I was about 4 or 5. Then we moved across the street from a little girl, my only Anglo friend at the time, who spoke English, and that's when I started to speak English. When I went to school, all of my teachers were Spanish. They spoke only English in school, but they spoke fluent Spanish to my parents out in the community. So I grew up with a pretty good grasp of the English language, a 4-year-old's grasp of the Spanish language, and a really good grasp of Spanglish, which is what we spoke all the time. So for most of my life, I've struggled a little bit with language, that communication piece. What words do I use? How do I put them together? How can I make them effective? I decided I was going to really take a look at the people around me. So I learned very much from my elders. I had a large group, large extended family, lots of colorful aunts and uncles. Whenever they got together, it was very exciting. And from my uncles, I learned a very important life lesson, how to play poker. So when I was little, we used to get to be bankers for the weekly poker game. And all of us siblings would get to sit around and we could put the money in and we'd pile up the pennies. It was penny ante poker. And we'd pile up the pennies in little stacks. And we would hear the uncles talk about economics and politics and business and agriculture. I learned from my uncles how to harvest. We planted and we irrigated and we grew things and we harvested. And I remember when I was 12 years old, I actually irrigated the entire apple orchard by myself. My brother came home, he was on some errand, and he said, "I can't believe you did it." And I said, "Okay, I did it by myself." He said, "We're not going to tell Dad you did it, we're going to tell him I did it." And I said, you are not stealing that little bit of glory from me. He said, "Are you kidding? If Dad knows you did it, you're going to have to do it all the time." So when Dad came home, he said, "Who irrigated the field?" I said, "He did." So the other thing that I had was one teacher who was not Spanish. She's my only minority teacher because she wasn't Spanish. She was blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and she was from Mississippi. And she had a great Southern accent, and I wanted to be her when I grew up. And I cannot imagine what forces of nature landed Miss Kyle right in the middle of Espanola, New Mexico, when I was in 6th grade. But she was there. And she opened my eyes up to a world that was not the sameness and the security of Espanola. She taught me that there is a world where girls receive gifts from boys, but not until they're 16. She taught me that there's an appropriate way to get in and out of the cars as a lady. She taught me what all of those utensils were when you sit down at a fancy restaurant. She had etiquette classes for us little Espanola girls, but not for the boys, and you could tell, honestly. So my sisters and I realized that the only way that we were ever going to be able to enter that different world of Miss Kyle's was if we learned how to speak the language well, and we learned not to have an accent. So now I don't really have an accent. I can if you want me to. I can under duress, and I do when I talk to my sisters on the phone, because my husband will hear me and he'll say, oh, it must be one of the girls. You're talking that way again. I'm hoping that as you're talking that you're finding out that we are learning by doing. Learning is active, okay? Learning by doing is why I'm standing here in this costume. This is my dance costume. I can tell right now, I hear and feel your relief, because there is no Southern girl who will wear this much flashy and tacky in one place in the afternoon. But this is my dance costume. And now that I'm a dancer, I can wear something like this. The only other people who can wear something like this in the afternoon is a kindergartner. My daughter is a clogger. Now, imagine how different this is from New Mexico. Okay, so in Espanola, a clog is something that's happening to your plumbing. Okay? Clogging is it's happening to your plumbing right now. And a clogger is someone who's making something happen with your plumbing. Okay? But here in the South, it's a wonderful, exciting dance. So I'm sitting at Dance Quest Dance School, which is just down the road here. You can join us anytime. And I'm waiting for my daughter to finish her dance lesson. I see 3 women walk in, and they sat down chatting and laughing and put on their clogging shoes. And I looked at them, and I thought, if they can do it, I can. So I signed up, never having taken 1 day of dance lessons. I signed up that day. I've never looked back. Now I'm part of a competitive dance team. We're called the Red Hot Mamas at the dance studio. And we dance in front of judges. And I get to wear this costume, which really, my other daughter says, at the end of the day, it really is all about fashion. So when I was in Colorado, I learned how to ski, of course, because you're in Colorado. So I wanted to learn how to ski. This was my early 20s. And when I went to the ski school finally, with the ski slope with a date/ski instructor, I said to him before I started, I just want you to know, I really don't like that feeling of going downhill really fast without any control. He said, look up there. That's the lodge. I'll meet you there in 6 hours. No, 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 I said, please, please, I really do want to learn. So he signed me up for the ski school. And I was in the beginner slope, and they had something called a rope tow. Has anybody been on skiing and they have a rope tow? Okay, I've been known to exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. I fell off that rope tow 20 times before I finally got up to the top of this little slope. And then I turned around, and I'm skiing down, and I realized in my excitement to learn how to go, guess what they forgot to teach me how to do? Stop. And I saw a man standing at the bottom of the hill like this with his skis on. He's waiting for his wife, significant other over there. And he saw me coming. He couldn't miss me. I was saying, move, move. And he went, and his realization took over his face. He just prepared for impact. And I did ski him over. And one ski went between his legs, and the other ski went on this side of his legs, and we fell down on top of each other, and I stopped, fortunately. And as I was disentangling myself, I did say to him, we have to stop meeting this way. His wife was not pleased. From that inauspicious beginning, I can ski now. I can ski a variety of different slopes, and obviously I have not severely injured myself. So this is the whole learning by doing piece here is important to me because I've studied the work of Howard Gardner. Howard Gardner has theorized that there are a number of different ways of learning so that everybody's way of learning is different but not wrong. So what's your strength? Take a look at them. You can find out by Googling. You go online, put in Howard Gardner, and you find out these little surveys that will tell you what your strength is. By the time we're adults, we're very comfortable with most of them, but there are still a couple of ways that you're very comfortable. My strength is in bodily kinesthetic and in interpersonal. That's why learning how to dance at the age of 50 wasn't really a stretch for me. And that's why I can actually stand in front of a group of people I don't know and tell you my deepest, darkest secrets, because of Howard Gardner's intelligences. You also need some other tools. Two of my favorite tools are the public library and the internet. Google is my friend. The public library was the place where I learned to read the classics. They had a paper there, then I picked it up and it said, classics you should read. So I started systematically at the top and I read the classics in alphabetical order until I got to Canterbury Tales. I lost interest and lost my list and ended up reading romance novels. But now Google and internet, hopefully by now somebody has tweeted how fabulous my costume is. But besides that, I'm hoping you've actually looked up Howard Gardner possibly. Maybe you've looked up Dance Quest to see how you can join us, the Red Hot Mamas. Maybe you've already looked up Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. This is how you continue to react and learn to people. We also need to have mentors and people to support you. The role model that I keep in mind is on your screen. Seriously, I cannot tell you how many times I have thought to myself, if a man drinking a six-pack can do it with a Phillips head screwdriver and a duct tape and a roll of duct tape, so can I. Don't laugh, because you know teachers come in all shapes and sizes. My best teacher right now is that 11-year-old sitting over there. She's taught me how to dance, boogie board, and make art. You also need somebody who's going to support you all the way through. A spouse or significant other. My poor husband has had to deal with me for 29 years as I've done everything from learn how to make all my own jewelry to get my master's degree. He has watched me build walls, dig ditches, put in patios, upholster furniture, make clothes, and any number of other wonderful little businesses. And I usually also involve a friend, sibling, or daughter in some of my little exploits. So right now, my daughter over there is becoming very quickly Ethel to my Lucy. She is Shirley to my Laverne. She is Gilligan to my Skipper. This is Lucy and Ethel do a speech today, so I do want to thank her for that. I also have two mottos that drive me. One of them I just recently found, and I said, oh my gosh, that's it. Do one thing every day that scares you. That's by Eleanor Roosevelt. For me, sometimes that one thing a day might be watching kindergartners play on the playground. Kindergartners scare me. They do. I like they're nice as people, but a whole group of them together, that's a little scary. It might be holding a tarantula in my hand in front of a group of first graders, which I did because they were watching me. It might be talking to a parent or having a hard conversation with a student. It might be standing up in front of a group of people that I don't know and talking to them. The next motto that really means a lot to me is called, how hard can it be? That's by me. I made that up. You can use it if you want to. Along the same lines as the guy with the beer. If I see somebody doing something kind of cool, fairly painlessly, and without serious risk of injury, I am challenged to try it. And I think it's because, as an educator, I know that everything you learn has small steps that if you take them in order, you're going to be successful. Clicker. All right, so just summing things up here. Be systematic. See learning from a child's perspective. Take a risk and open your eyes to the world around you. Harvest in Espanola. Ski in Colorado. Dance in North Carolina. Look around for clues of something that you could do. Maintain your dignity and control as much as you can by making sure that you're taking those small steps incrementally, day by day, and learning. That will bring you your success. Make connections with what you already know. Several years ago, I had to sew the clothes for an entire wedding party. I had to measure, cut, put the pieces together, make them aesthetically pleasing, and make sure they suited the people that were going to use them. A few years later, I made a swing set. I had to measure, cut, put the pieces together, make it aesthetically pleasing, and make sure it suited the 4-year-old that was going to use it. I have to tell you that on the package it said, will be completed in 15 hours. They did not say, but they indicated that it was probably by a guy drinking a six-pack using a Phillips head screwdriver and duct tape. They did not say, or 3 days for a woman working with her 2 daughters. But at least I was able to make those connections for my daughters. As we unloaded the wood from the pickup, I said, how hard can it be? We've sewn dresses before. This is just like sewing a dress, it's just harder material. I shamelessly borrowed this quote from my husband. Thanks, honey. He says that the secret to happiness is to always have an abundance of good health, the absence of stress, and something to look forward to. Well, think about that. Lifelong learning means fully participating in the world around you and fully participating in life. Learning is going to take more of a role as you get older because it's going to be your actual survival. You have to learn how to take care of your health. You have to learn how to alleviate stress. But the one thing that you can control is what will you look forward to? What will make you happy? So the next thing for me, well, there's this new dance to perfect. And how hard can it be? Thank you.